Next comes transport. We now have a plan. It is strategic and it is agreed. Now we need to accelerate the arguments. So this morning I've asked the West Midlands transport partners to finalise our blueprint by the 15th of December. I want to see the case made for how transport closes the £10 billion output gap. Crucially, I want to see the sequence, how we sequence our priorities in order to close that gap as expeditiously as possible. Within that plan, I will personally work on 3 aspirations: to do everything possible to see the expansion of Birmingham Airport, to make sure that our plans for new highways and rail upgrades, our connections, if you like, with the growth that will come in the rest of the UK, and I will work with partners in the business community in the Black Country to make sure the case developed for the strategic transport spine in the Black Country is as carefully prepared and developed and argued and put forward to government as was our case for New Street Station. And my final priority is housing. This year sees the advent of big changes, the advent nationally of the New Homes and Communities Agency to drive forward this government's ambitions to create 3 million new homes in this country. And so my commitment is to work with the new agency, as it's established in the Midlands, to make sure that it really understands the scale of this region's ambition for a step change in the availability of affordable housing. And I'll seek to help with the house building industry to see how best government can best offset the effects of today's downturn in the housing market while preparing medium term for the growth that is to come. Now, in setting out this plan for the year ahead, I know that there's only so much that one minister can do, especially if they are only a regional minister. I know that I'm only one public servant amongst many, but I do think that means that we need in the region a new power structure. I hope soon that my work, as well as yours, you'll be pleased to hear, will be subject to the laser-like scrutiny of regional select committees. But the government's review of subnational economic development and regeneration will soon mean sharper arrangements for boosting growth, assembling in one place for the first time plans for economic development, housing, planning, environmental growth and transport issues all in one strategy. But third, change will mean equipping local authorities with new powers to drive growth and change their local communities. Now, as we know, all of this will involve a new spirit of collaboration and cooperation. And I stand by, as they say in the civil service, to help and support. In particular, though, and this is my serious point, in particular, I will strive to continue to be the best friend that Stoke and North Staffordshire have in government. I said consistently over the last 12 months that we will not succeed in this region unless we succeed in Stoke and North Staffordshire too. It is the place I have visited most often this year, and I will make that my policy again in the year to come, supporting the ambitious plans that are now in place for a renaissance in that place which did so much for this region and to help us become the cradle of the Industrial Revolution. I want to conclude now, and I want to conclude with one final reflection and one final ask. There is one thing which has struck me very hard in the last 10 months. It's been my great privilege to meet business and community and public service leaders week in, week out for the last 10 months. I've made speeches like this at events. I've held after-work dinners on Thursday nights. I've run policy workshops at the weekend. But the clear conclusion that I have drawn from this work is that we simply do not have enough ethnic minorities in leadership positions across this region. For a region whose strength is diversity, whose great interest is the degree of our differences, whose great contribution to this country is the mix of cultures here, this is simply not acceptable. And if it is allowed to persist, it will not only lead us wrongly led, it will leave us weakly led. So I have this morning asked Trudy Elliott, as chair of our new Economic Inclusion panel, to prepare for me an analysis of ethnic minority representation on governing boards across the public sector in the West Midlands. I want to know, too, whether women and people with disabilities are properly represented. And I am asking Karamjit Singh to draw up for me an action plan for how we change the picture which I suspect is going to emerge. My point is this: we need the brightest and the best, wherever they're from, whatever their physical abilities, whatever the colour of their skin, and we will not prosper and we will not succeed and we will not thrive unless every section of the community in this region is given the opportunity to lead. 10 months into this job has shown me with a new clarity what this region can achieve. I am 10 times more optimistic today than I was 10 months ago. Above all, I think that there is in this region a spirit of can-do that can make the world of difference. And in the year ahead, I'm looking forward to making a bit of that difference together with you. Thanks very much indeed.